Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today on the 2021-22 Tribal Energy Innovators Fellowship. The title of the webinar is A Year as a Tribal Energy Innovator. So we're real excited to be able to highlight each one of our fellows. They're going to be presenting on their fellowship proposal and some of the activities that they were able to accomplish throughout the year. As you can see, we're going to have Daniel Wiggins Jr. He is Bad River Band of Lake Superior Tribe of Chippewa Indians. Also Brett Alberts, he is Spirit Lake Sioux from North Dakota, and Chantel Green, who is Nez Pierce from Idaho. And I am Tengshi Claremont, Managing Director of the Tribal Solar Accelerator Fund. I will give a brief overview about grid alternatives and the Tribal Solar Accelerator Fund, and then we'll go ahead and get into the fellows' presentations. Just a few housekeeping items. The webinar is being recorded, and this is so those that couldn't join at the top of the hour. 1 second, it looks like my screen is not showing. Sorry about that, folks. I didn't realize my screen wasn't projecting the slide. So I'll just return to the home page real quickly. Again, just want to show you the title of the webinar, A Year as a Tribal Energy Innovator, and the names of our fellows. I will go ahead and get into the housekeeping slide once again. The webinar is being recorded so that we can produce it on our YouTube channel as well as on our website for those who are interested in learning more about the fellowship presentations but weren't able to join us today. All participants will be on listen-only mode, and we will be monitoring the questions panel for additional questions that may be asked throughout the presentation. And if you wish to speak, please raise your hand and I can unmute you as an attendee. One second, it looks like I'm having a little bit of technical difficulties. Let me figure this out. I hope that slide view is a little bit better. Again, sorry about that. It looks like it was toggling the speaker presenter view. So I would like to go ahead and continue on with okay. There we go. I hope you're all seeing what's displayed on my computer, which is the Grid Alternatives mission, vision, history, impacts to date, and information about our National Tribal Program. So again, I'd like to just give a brief background, a snapshot about Grid Alternatives. Our mission is to build community-powered solutions to advance economic and environmental justice through renewable energy. We envision a rapid, equitable transition to a world powered by renewable energy that benefits everyone. So just a little bit about kind of the history of GRID. It was founded during the 2001 California energy crisis by Erica Mackey and Tim Sears, who are two engineering professionals who are implementing large-scale renewable energy and energy efficiency projects for the private sector. The idea that drove them was simple: free, clean electricity should be available to everyone. Through Grid Alternatives, they developed a model to make solar PV technology practical and accessible for low-income communities while providing pathways to clean energy jobs. Some of GRID impacts to date. GRID is a leading voice in low-income solar policy and the nation's largest nonprofit solar installer. Some of the families that are served by GRID throughout California, Colorado, and the Mid-Atlantic region and tribal communities are low income to moderate income folks. We do serve a lot of tribal communities in these regions, but we also serve tribal communities outside of the regions, which I'll get into a little bit through the National Tribal Program. But today, GRID has installed over 18,000 systems with a total kilowatt of 78,787, which is equal to a lifetime savings of $602 million. So again, we are a leading nonprofit solar installer that reaches a lot of communities throughout California, Colorado, and the Mid-Atlantic region, which is the DC area. Grid Alternatives National Tribal Program has worked since 2010 to help tribal communities across the United States achieve their renewable energy goals. Our model is a community-centric approach where we partner with tribes to identify, develop, finance, and implement solar power projects that meet community needs, which include education, hands-on training, and energy cost reductions for tribal members. The Tribal Solar Accelerator Fund is a almost 4-year program within Grid Alternatives. We are a tribal focused and tribal-led grant-making program, not just for tribes, but also for individual tribal members. So back in 2018, Wells Fargo announced a commitment of $200 million for sustainable financing, and $100 million was going to go toward financing clean technology and renewable energy projects. Wells Fargo was a longtime funder of Grid Alternatives, and a handful of our existing tribal partners at that time reached out to Grid and wanted to understand how they could access this $100 million toward clean energy technologies. And from that point, it just really made sense to develop a program where tribes could, come to and access funding resources for their tribal projects, tribal solar projects. And from that time in 2018 to now, we have developed 4 different energy funding grant opportunities, 3 different individual leadership programs, and under that, I mean, we have, reached a number of tribal communities and tribal individuals that have participated in a number of our programs. So a little bit about our mission and vision for Indian country is to transition to energy sovereignty that is educational, entrepreneurial, and completely renewable. And we aim to catalyze the growth of solar energy and expand solar job opportunities in tribal communities across the United States. The TSAF supports the growing potential of tribal leadership in energy and the renewable energy generation potential on tribal lands by providing grant funding for new solar demonstration projects, which include tribal facility and residential solar systems, community innovation grants, such as the fellowship program that you're listening to today, and scholarship support for tribal college and university students. Again, we have developed a number of new programs under the TSAF community. And so we're really looking to expand our scope of activities, our reach within Indian country, and really just looking to support through financial resources for tribes across Indian country. Some of our impacts to date, we have provided over $4.1 million in tribal solar grant funding. And that also includes, again, our leadership programs, which are more geared toward individuals looking to develop their entrepreneurial or educational ideas for their communities, as well as the TCU scholarship program. And through this work, we've also been able to work with about 30 tribes as grantees, and a lot of those tribes are now in their next phase of development around their renewable energy planning and infrastructure. And so with the Tribal Solar Accelerator Fund community, we have, reached over 30,000 tribal folks through all of our programs. I just wanted to provide kind of a visual of the representatives of the Tribal Solar Accelerator Fund team. From left to right, John Teller, he is our communications officer, and from the Menominee Nation. I am next to him, Tangshi Claremont, I am Sistin Wapton, and Sichangu Lakota. Next to me is Christian Weaver. He is from the Shinnecock Nation, and he is our program director. And next is Angelica Wright from the Choctaw Nation, and she leads all leadership programs. And then next to her is Adam Badwoon, who is the Chief Development Officer at Grid Alternatives and also the Tribal Solar Accelerator Fund founder. So our team is, tribally diverse. We're located in different areas of Indian country, but we're all here to support our TSAF community and those who are looking for grant funding. We're also looking to support and create that knowledge in the industry so that folks in the industry are aware of the innovative and unique needs of tribes, but also the ways that tribes are planning and developing for renewable energy technologies in their communities. Just wanted to put some faces to the names. This is our Tribal Energy Innovator Fellows for the 2021-2022 year, from left to right. Daniel Wiggins of the Bad River Band of Ojibwe, Brett Alberts of the Spirit Lake Sioux Nation in Fort Taunton, North Dakota, and Chantel Green, who's a Nez Perce tribal member in Lapwai, Idaho. I will be turning it over to Chantel so she can provide her presentation on her fellowship goals and activities. Chantel, you can go ahead and unmute yourself and take it away.
Okay, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Danielle, for that. Tatsmewi, good morning. My name is Chantel Green. I've been a Tribal Energy Innovator Fellow for about a year. And you can go ahead and go to the next slide. To introduce myself, who is Chantel Green. I am Nez Perce or Nimipu. I grew up in Lapwai, Idaho on the reservation, Nez Perce Reservation. I went to school and got my education. My undergrads are American Indian Studies with emphasis in environmental justice from Haskell Indian Nation University, and a health, sports, and exercise science degree as well, also from Haskell University. That's where I was introduced to renewable energy, the sustainability programs, and really gained an interest in sustainability work. I had a internship that was a sustainable research and mentoring program that led me to University of Colorado Boulder. From there, I was able to get connected with Grid Alternatives. And if you want to go ahead and go to the next slide. To embarrass myself, this is during my undergrad, the National Science Foundation internship with Emerging Researchers, a STEM mentoring program on sustainable housing and engineering. This was the internship that I was introduced to Grid Alternatives, where we were able to do work as volunteers in the Denver, Colorado area. So this is during my time of undergrad. I was finishing my environmental justice degree with Haskell Indian Nation University. I went on to return home. From there, I obtained my master's degree from University of Oklahoma, and that's a master's in legal studies. I continued the work in environmental justice with my own tribe, connecting our housing programs, and then staying connected with the Emerging Researchers STEM Mentoring Program at University of Colorado Boulder. We were able to obtain scholarships for tribal members of the Nez Perce tribe, where I was able to get internships, paid internships for a few of our 6 of our high school students through this internship, and we were able to educate our students on STEM, straw bale houses, engineering, sustainable engineering, how to build and how to construct with natural building materials. That program went really well. All of our students end up going to college, with 2 as of right now who are actually solar installers in our Nez Perce solar program right now. So you can go ahead and go to the next slide, please. What you have done during the time of this year worth of fellowship, I'm gonna go ahead and go to the next slide. Quite a bit has gone on during this program. Has been wonderful, one for connecting, networking, and then also being able to converse with other folks doing solar or renewable energy work. So during this last year, for my solar stuff, I was able to complete the Nez Perce Tribe Solar and Energy Initiative. And this was a $1.5 million project. We were able to shoot a video that has gone out. We now have a new video, which we don't have time. I can share the link to the new video that's gone out. But for this program and for this initiative, that included our wastewater treatment plant, our community center, and our Boys and Girls Club. And then along this project, we were able to add 2 Tesla Mega energy storage packs. Those are currently the Tesla Mega packs, just due to the pandemic and different things going on with energy storage and the power walls. Those took a little bit longer than anticipated for the project. But however, everything's been delivered and installed. We did come to a completion for this project. We did the solar and the Nez Perce Tribal Enterprise, which I was able to do the build design for our casinos. And those are now installed, and I can show photos of those of our pre-installation and then afterwards of what it looks like now. So we're pretty much into the point where those have been completely installed. They're still doing work on the electrical parts to make sure that all the electrical pieces and those are energized as of right now. We did do buildings for our fisheries buildings to solarize those in our Oregon offices. And we kind of ran into a few hiccups, and those end up being just structural for the buildings themselves. So that project, as of right now, is just on hold. I already have a build design and cost to move forward. Just waiting on plans for those actual buildings, and then I can move forward with those ones. So for myself, it's been a pretty crazy year since this time last year. I found myself transitioning out from council, from our Nez Perce executive committee into a staff position, and then eventually coming into the decision that I need to develop my own personal company so that I can continue renewable energy projects, and not just solar, but also doing traditional ecological knowledge, sharing, and independent contracting. So I developed my own company in the meantime this year, and that's titled as Jejus, which means Green in Nez Perce, Green Energy LLC. So I had to do a lot of research for this kind of, my education is environmental, it's not in business. So I had to do a lot of partnerships and researching myself to get to the point where I am now. I worked with the Idaho Business Women's Association. I got a lot of assistance there. And we do have eternal programs, our CDFI programs. They also do tribal loans through them as well. I am completed with the logo design, and I'm at a point where I'm already, because I'm established, I already have independent contracts coming through my own company with outside organizations, both tribal and non-tribal. So I am building 2 solar projects right now, one for a non-tribal construction company here in the Lewiston area of Idaho, and one tribal large tribal program building that will be solarized for the Shopai tribe, most southern in Idaho, bordering Nevada. So those will be coming forward as well. I'm getting simultaneously still completing a launch date for my own website. My logos are, everything is completed. I'm just kind of looking on a ways how to promote small businesses at the same time of doing my own launch event. And then I do have a website. I can't share. I don't think I can share my screen right now. I could at least give a sneak peek of what that looks like. So I'm just finalizing that right now, and that will be completed come July. So following, I'm also working with different partners for renewable energy projects, not just the solar, but we're also partnered with the Conservation Voters of Idaho, and just doing a ton of presentations as of right now. And then moving in the direction of climate commitments for the tribes. I'll be presenting July 6th to all 5 tribes, and looking to introduce my own company and reintroduce myself, which they're familiar with me already, being on council, but being able to move forward on larger scales with the climate commitments and a large utility scale project that I do have an investor coming forward, that we can start completing large projects and getting all the tribes to work together. And that's what the Nez Perce tribe has been promoting, and that's what I can do eternally now that I'm branched out on my own and be able to provide that independent work to the tribes, whether it be for research, grant writing, funding, assistance with building, trust relationships, networking, and kind of move these projects forward. You eventually get to the point where I've been in conversations with Department of Energy and DEMD on a utility feasibility study for the Nez Perce tribe, especially with the more projects that we build and transitioning our own energy story. We'll be looking, which would be most ideal if we move forward with a utility company of our own. And so that's where I'm at for that right now. And then kind of moving forward, we can go ahead and go to the next slide. This is an article that was written. This was our Solar On event, coordinated eternally. This is where the tribe, we were able to flip the switch, energizing 770 solar panels. This was the first large solar project that I was able to complete while I was on council for the Nez Perce tribe. This is where, just close to the photo that's on here, is where our mega pack actually now sits, or one of them. And you can go ahead and go to the next one. This is, again, just part of our Nez Perce tribe solar power on virtual event. We actually were able to do that Facebook Live as well, especially with the pandemic and everything. We've made everything accessible, both in person and virtually now. And we can go ahead and go to the next slide. These are photos of my solar installers, which we started out first with 16, 26 within 2 months of this project, 36 within 2 months, and then we were clear up to 50 within a 3-month span of Nez Perce tribal members going to our tribal employee rights program to sign up to learn about solar and renewable energy. And so these are our tribal members here working on the wastewater treatment plant, which is now completed. This project actually has transitioned out in partnership with, I work very closely with my good friend Stephanie Krantz She's our climate change coordinator for the Nez Perce tribe, who wrote for Seeds of Sovereignty grant funding that was able to move along doing the solar, and what we intended for was to actually be able to grow hemp underneath here. So making it both renewable energy, solar, and agriculture project together. So some of these projects were actually building upon each other and able to do agriculture and farming underneath some of the tilt solar solar projects that we have completed already. And you can go ahead and go to the next one. Again, here is just more of photos of our solar installers, which again, to emphasize, we started out with 26. We now have, which they've all completed all their certifications and courses that they needed. We now have 36 solar tribal installers that are certified. So this is some of our tribal members learning and installing, and then dealing with conduit for our Nez Perce projects. Can you go ahead and go to the next slide, please? This is the Nez Perce tribe Clearwater River solar project. This is the roof prior to, so these are our enterprises. I guess my transitions also brought me to where I'm now the Gaming Commission Director. So I oversee all of our enterprises, but this is the project I was able to bring. In the photo are the higher management for our Clearwater River Casino, including our executive officer, Nikolai Green. So this is what our enterprise, our casino roof looked before and after installation. If you want to go ahead and go to the next slide, this is what it looks like now. They are now, all the installation is completed. We're making sure eternally everything is completed. This project was on a separate deal, a utility. So that's kind of some of the things that you actually end up learning is dealing with different utility companies. This one was tied up into the Clearwater Power Company. So they're a lot smaller, so they were definitely a lot simpler to deal with. So it looks pretty different. I get a lot of questions on, what it will look like, and if it would make it, not look good anymore. However, you can't really tell when you're actually driving by our casino, unless we tell you, hey, there's our solar panels, unless you're up on top of here where you can actually get a photo like this. But most of the people can't even tell that, we have all these solar panels up on the roof now. So it didn't, at least for that part, I guess them thinking that it would actually make it look not very pleasing. It's definitely not what happened. If you can go ahead and go to the next slide, please. What I've learned, so you can go ahead and go to the next one. What I've learned, it's literally so much that we've learned. Again, every project is different, and learning how to deal with the utility companies. I think most folks that have dealt with building solar renewable energy projects, sometimes those are the most difficult times. My learning experience came from basically from the very beginning. Learned a lot on how my own community would actually react to, and learning along the way. And some folks not knowing about renewable energy at all, solar at all, and having to learn about it. There's been different responses, especially the ones that actually have to not deal with it, but actually have to learn something about it. and having to deal with, it is just that lack of knowledge piece, and being able to know that and maintain that, to continue promoting it, and moving these projects along. Sometimes you end up with hiccups. In our community, it's been really inviting. It didn't come without, complications at all. There were a few speed bumps along the way, but we were able to kind of get through those, and realizing at the same time that if you maintain workforce training and development as your cornerstone, has been a major driver. Also, with our tribal folks being able to really address and get behind what our tribe promotes very highly as dam removal or breaching, as we are known as the salmon people, and that's what we promote historically, culturally, economically, and knowing that the dams have been incredibly detrimental to our fish runs. So being able to get behind renewable energy and solar projects gave our individual tribal members a personal way to make a big impact. So that's been a good thing in our community. And we're continuing to learn along the way, now kind of branching out and knowing how to actually build the projects. I'm still learning that, how to, I guess, obtain funding is kind of where I'm at right now. So being able to be that resource for other tribes and non-tribal folks to move these projects is kind of where I'm at right now, and maintaining being a big resource. So kind of learning how to teach all at the same time. Obtaining funding has been probably the most difficult, especially with federal funding. And there's just different mechanisms, and I know there's a lot of renewable energy funding as of right now. It's just the difficulty of, most tribes don't have the capacity to actually write for grants. Maintain them is another thing, deliverables, but gaining access to the federal funding has been now a little bit more of a difficult thing with, there's different requirements for each funding source. So that's gonna probably remain that way. So learning how to position my own company in a way that I can funnel money to these projects and get them off the ground quicker. Go ahead, go to the next slide, please. So what I plan to work on moving forward, kind of explained a little bit of that already. If you want to go ahead and go to the next slide. So I did develop my own company, so that's going to be most of the work right now. I do promote the Nez Perce tribe and what their message is, but I can no longer speak for them. So I'm transitioning out just as an independent contractor, and being able to provide building projects, research, grant opportunities, relationship building, trust building, and as well as internships. I do partner with Community Rebuilds. So these are free internships that I can provide to tribal members. They get a free learning experience and certificate program that's a 5 to 6 month program. And they do get certified at the end of it. They learn everything that there is about sustainable engineering, how to build straw bale houses from the ground up, to auditing, solar, renewable energy, how to work with the materials, webinars. Everything is provided, free housing, stipend, and on top of that, I can actually supplement funding that I went after on my own with my own company. So trying to do our best at making the students make it as simple as we possibly can and help guide them along the way to finishing these programs and gaining access to more learning opportunities. So that's me moving forward. You can go ahead and go to the next slide. So thank you for your time and work on renewable energy. I'm open and available for contracts and or just presentations or anything else moving forward. I definitely want to thank the Grid Alternatives program. I've been connected with them, like I shown, since 2012, 2013. It's a great nonprofit program, and I look forward to maintaining the relationships that have been built so far. So thank you for your time and work in renewable energy.
Thank you, Chantel. That was a great overview, and we're just really proud to be able to support the work of, Chantel Green and her ideas and visions for her community. Next, I'd like to introduce Brett Alberts, who will be providing an overview of his fellowship year.
Hello, everyone. I hope you're all having a good day. My name is Brett Alberts. I'm an enrolled member of the Spirit Lake Sioux tribe, which is one of the 5 federally recognized tribes of North Dakota. Currently, I'm a senior in the Environmental Science and Research Bachelor's Program at United Tribes Technical College. That's located in Bismarck, North Dakota. I'm also a full-time intern at the local USDA Agricultural Research Service. So I've previously graduated as a dual major with 2 associate's degrees. I have an associate's in pre-engineering and computer information technology as well. A little bit about myself: when I'm not in class or working, I like to spend time with my child, Mittens, which is my cat. Travel to different places I've never been, attempting to keep up my fitness by hiking, rollerblading, lifting weights, and working on vehicles when I have the money to. The picture there you see with the engine was probably one of my proudest moments when I swapped an engine myself during a winter break. So participating in different internships and programs is probably the reason why I'm here today. I'll share the most memorable or stressful experiences I've gone through. My first research project was on gene expression on mice brains. That was a whole lot because it was my first year in college. I didn't expect it. It was at the University of North Dakota Medical School. It was an 8-week program during the summer. A second experience is when I was the technical and team lead for the United Tribes rocket team, where we competed nationally. This was a 2-semester long extracurricular. During the 2018 winter break, I assisted in research for the Las Cruces Biological Station in Costa Rica. During this time, our team utilized GPS coordinations and river parameters to create the first maps of multiple streams in the jungles. And my most recent summer engineering internship was at Sandia National Laboratory in Albuquerque. This internship is what triggered my interest for solar energy. During my internship, I traveled with the Indian Energy interns to different reservations around the area, such as the Navajo Nation, a couple Apache tribes, and different Pueblo tribes as well. We talked to the tribal professionals at these reservations who worked in the energy department. During these trips, it provided a lot of insight to the relationships between utilities and tribal nations, as well as energy development on tribal land. Visiting with the different tribes made me aware of the importance and relationship between solar energy and sovereignty. So I first learned about the TSAP fellowship while helping on the solar roller, which is The solar roller is the college's solar trailer that's used to power the lights during our annual powwow. This led me to my introduction to Tongxi, and after talking about my research ideas with her, I applied for the fellowship. Initially, my research topic derives from dye-sensitized solar cells. I had learned about dye-sensitized solar cells when I had read an article online about a fabrication of a simple solar cell using powdered donuts and raspberries, which seemed really interesting because usually when you think of solar, you kind of think of, you always hear about how expensive it is to like actually set up your own solar system if you were to do it like at your home. I looked into it, and this diagram actually is a brief explanation on how that was done. The raspberries can actually be substituted with a variety of different organic sources, such as plant material or other fruits. And this is possible because of the compound anthocyanin, which gives the red, blue, and purple colors to different plants and fruits. So grapes, purple grapes, blackberries. That compound actually captures light and can be found in a lot of different things. So the simplicity of this solar cell sparked my interest in research, and I wanted to know the differences in power between, using different dyes. So I conducted more research, was reading different studies on these dye-sensitized solar cells, which is kind of a recent topic within the past 5 years, I had noticed. I formulated my own research question. That question is, what is the power output difference of dye-sensitized solar cells constructed using cherries, blueberries, and purple grapes as natural dye sources and operated under ambient light? After I formulated that question, it triggered more ideas and different questions, such as, is it possible to power small-scale electronics such as various IoT devices? And IoT devices are Internet of Things, so just different things around your house that provide power, small devices like in a building, the sensor that opens the doors up for you while you walk in, that type of stuff. Is it possible to add a storage component like a rechargeable battery, which would be beneficial to provide power to like things such as those doors in a business, so it doesn't have to use take power off the grid, which adds up eventually. And another question I had thought about was the local, if local agricultural waste if that can be used for different dyes. So living in North Dakota, it's a huge ag state. And I'd often wondered if, the waste that they get rid of after, harvesting their crops, can that be used to create dyes? That would make it a lot, cost efficient to create these types of solar cells. So I would like to have looked into the anthocyanin levels and see what the output would be from those. So this is where it kind of takes a turn. Although the topic is exciting, unfortunately, I did lose focus on this research for now. And I believe the main reason for this was the lack of a research leader or a research mentor. There's not too much, or that I know about anyways, solar going on in North Dakota. It kind of made me feel like I was alone on the project. The fellowship definitely helped, but as an undergraduate research student, it definitely helps to have a mentor or a research leader to learn how to conduct research. I do plan on continuing the research sometime in the future, though. So despite shifting my research focus during the fellowship, I learned so much from the fellowship. I realized that, asking the experienced fellows, at first I was kind of felt out of place because they had done a lot, as you'll see, they've done a lot of different things with solar, and I am just an undergraduate research student who's looking into the things. I haven't had much hands-on experience, so a lot of it's just questions and thoughts. but being able to ask them questions, it helps a lot in the learning process, because solar does kind of have a high curve when you're looking at, you know, the scientific articles and trying to learn about the whole process. So their insights are extremely helpful. Learning about I can't say this word. Philanthropy. Sorry. Learning about philanthropy. I can't even say the word. That's how new the topic was to me. I've heard the word before, but I didn't know what it meant. So learning the basics and different topics such as ethically fundraising for tribes, I can see how beneficial this will apply to me in the future. The networking opportunities gained from the fellowship are invaluable for those who want to help tribal communities with solar projects, or just learn about solar projects in its own. That's my biggest takeaway, probably, as well as being empowered to know that becoming a native entrepreneur of solar energy is completely possible, just like you had seen previously. So moving forward, I didn't stop doing research completely. As I'm working with the USDA, I'm conducting soil decomposition research, which is still related to the bigger picture of climate change, which is a passion of mine. I'll be using tea bags, which is an inexpensive and accurate method to measure decomposition rates in different soils. Right now, it's kind of expensive. The methods used are expensive, so it's not done as often. And these data values are actually used to help create climate models. They're only using estimated numbers most of the time. So being able to provide accurate data for these models will help us create more accurate models for the future. After I graduate with my bachelor's, I plan to further my education to a master's degree while I work full-time. And lastly, although my focus shifted temporarily, I hope my relations with GRID continue in the future. And I'm extremely grateful to have taken part in this fellowship and appreciate the flexible funding support from TSAF. This has made my goals and aspirations as an independent first-generation Native American student possible and a lot less stressful. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Britt. We learned a lot from Britt as well, just being a unique research student. I don't know how many of you all have heard of dye sensitized solar cells, but this was the first for me, and it just sounds like a really indigenized, innovative way to look into other ways to develop solar cells. Right now, it's about lithium mining, but if this could come to an actual fruition of developing this type of technology, I think it's going to be really valuable in the future to not just tribal communities, but to the industry as a whole. So it looks like we have just about 7 minutes left. I think we can go a little bit over, but wanted to make sure our next fellow, Daniel Wiggins, has the opportunity to share his research or his proposed activity throughout the fellowship.
Thank you, Tanshi.
So if you can go ahead and unmute yourself, Dan, and you'll be on presentation mode.
Awesome. I think you guys can hear me. Can you guys hear me?
We can hear you.
Awesome. Apologize. Hello, my name is Daniel Wiggins Jr. I'm a Battle River Tribal member, and I work for the Battle River Tribe. Next slide. We'll go right into the next slide. Next slide, please. Again, I'm a Battle River Tribal member, so I'm the last fellow presenting today. I'm a Battle River Ojibwe tribal member. I've lived on the reservation for nearly 35 years. A little bit about my background is I did receive an associate's with an emphasis in renewable energy and energy efficiency. Then I became the MNRD quality technician. Shortly after that, the tribe felt I had some renewable energy experience and gave me oversight of renewable energy projects in 2017. Next slide. Some of the past energy projects, this is probably one of the places where Tanshi and the group probably heard from or heard about me. I've also heard about grid alternatives. So when we were applying for these projects, we were also watching what grid alternatives and TSAF and everybody was doing as well. In 2020, we implemented the USDA project where we installed 3 microgrids at the clinic, wastewater treatment building, and the administration building. The project installed over 500 kilowatts of solar with over 1,000 kilowatt hours of storage. In Wisconsin, this is the largest microgrid system in Wisconsin. It was commissioned in May of 2021. In 2019, just rewinding a little bit to get to that point, we did do some long-range planning. So looking beyond what the microgrids are going to be doing, we were looking at mini grids, but also how do the tribes reach that final end goal, which is the tribal utility authority. Even before that, we did strategic energy planning, and that really is a high-level view where it identifies specific energy goals for the tribe, highlights renewable energy resources that could work, and identifies stakeholders and partners. Those 2 documents in 2000 and 2019 really helped in obtaining the USDOE funds and really helps with identifying a pathway for the tribe that can work. Those plans are always amendable, and trust me, they always change as we get more information and data coming in. Next slide. One of the things I mentioned was the long-range energy plan. So this is just a little snapshot. We do have a report that goes into a little bit more details. But as you can see, the tribe is looking at a phased approach, using the microgrids as a starter point and really looking at how we can first interconnect additional loads, but also add more solar and more storage effectively. The end goal is one, to create a mini grid that can support the tribe through resiliency measures. So if we receive an outage from major weather events, we're going to be able to hopefully support not just tribal infrastructure, but maybe even residential and other infrastructure that might be valuable during an outage. Again, the end goal is really identifying what that tribal utility authority is. And I think that's really where TSAF and grids came in. And when there's going to be some questions about the fellowship. There was a lot of discussions, I think, around what tribal utility authorities mean to us and to other fellows. And next slide, we'll get into that discussion. This is just a picture of one of the microgrids that the group did get to see yesterday. So it was really exciting to finally showcase what the Bad River Tribe has done. I think a lot of people have seen virtual meetings and have seen a lot of pictures, but I think when you get up front and see the stuff in real life, it is really cool. A lot of technology, there's a lot of components, and you kind of get just a good feeling of the environment and what the tribe is trying to do. Next slide. Some of the specific fellowship activities we did, I'm going to provide a microgrid overview. So at the end of this, the Tanshi will be provided a couple brochures around not just what the project was, but how the project was financed and how tribes can finance projects. Some of the other things we did was the monthly meetings. These were very helpful to really vent and get some responses on maybe some of the issues that I was going through as a tribal planner. One of the things that I've noticed that'll come up later as well is we don't all do the same work for our tribes. Each tribal employee is kind of built a little bit different, tribal energy employee that is. And so it's really helpful to see how other tribes are approaching problems or obstacles. We've done some specific youth outreach and education. So some of the stuff that I've wanted to kind of emphasize with the fellowship is really working with youth. So we work with the Indian Arts and Science Summer Youth Shadowing and Tour Program. Really where we just bring kids and expose them to the technologies. we have engineers, we have a lot of people on site that have built these systems and that are operating, and so it's really just introducing them and seeing if they have any interest in the technologies. I also did a Berkeley Lab virtual tour that should be available online. I should be able to provide a link to the attendees. And that really just is a very basic virtual online tour that goes over the systems. Again, we're going to help Bad River become a part of Emterra, which I did do that during the time of my fellowship, and then just continue education, attend other conferences, and continue to develop policies. Next slide. Again, what it's all about for me, I think one of the things I really did want to emphasize with my fellowship was, exposing more youth to these technologies. I think one of the benefits of microgrids is you have, you can have a cluster of technologies in one spot. So you're not just going to have solar panels, you're not just going to have batteries, you can have a combination of solar, wind, batteries, and really look at what other technologies might work. Within that same breath, I think we've realized how technical these microgrids are, and the building of capacity for tribes is really going to start with identifying youth that want to fill these roles and fill these gaps. They really are our future. I think every tribe has a 7th-generation teaching, and really what we're doing today is for the youth of tomorrow. Next slide. What I've learned, all tribes face similar energy issues. And I think this is one thing where I really was able to take away from the fellowship. I think Brett highlighted where he was at with his energy roles and how he was approaching, the future. And there's a lot of uncertainty. And I would say, at his age, a lot of us are probably at that point, or we're at that point. And I think this is where the fellowship really played a key role, and I'm hoping Brett really was able to take some stuff from me and Chantal in the group. Is some tribes are way ahead and some tribes are just starting out, but we all face similar energy issues. It is amazing how each tribe is approaching energy issues differently, but when you look at the base obstacles and problems, they're all the same. And so I think it's really important to have fellowships and groups like this that are really able to focus on certain issues and really have free and open, full conversations, I think was the other thing. There was nothing really off the table that we couldn't discuss, and I really appreciated that. The other thing that we emphasized on is utilities are difficult to work with. And so, that we can get into the utilities and how many obstacles utilities provide, but between policy and upgrades, I think that really emphasizes two of the key areas. Tribes also strive for energy independence and sovereignty. I don't think that changes with any tribe that you go to. I don't think you can ask one tribe and they'll say, hey, we don't want energy independence. And so that's something, again, we share. It can be defined differently for each tribe. So I think this bothers funding agencies, this bothers other municipalities, this bothers neighboring partners. Is, one, if they've worked with other tribes, they feel like they have an idea of what other tribes might want, and that's not the case. Each tribe is going to define energy independence and sovereignty differently, and that's our right. That's our inherent right. Just as an example, what Red Cliff considers as energy independence is way different than what Bad River's. Red Cliff is, I think, looking towards, becoming their own utility and creating their own energy, where, Bad River is probably approaching it from a policy perspective and looking at taking over a lot of that stuff. So that's just a snippet. We all have questions on energy planners' role. It's kind of what Brett was going on. No tribe has executed projects exactly the same. Some tribes do not have staff designated for energy, and some tribes have major programs and departments. And so taking what we can from those that have vast experience and, hopefully teaching others that need that knowledge. Tribes don't have the same policies in place. I think one of the things I learned from Chantal is, just the LLC ordinance, for example, and how she was able to maneuver through her tribe using her own business. That was great. That's great knowledge for me to take back to my people and say, hey, these are options for you guys to still do renewable energy projects, but maybe not work for the tribe. Each tribe, and then finally, each tribe can still learn from each other on what projects work and what project can't. I think at the end of the day, the fellowship, provides at least that, we're seeing tribes be successful. We're seeing tribes overcome challenges, and I think that's the best thing that the fellowship can offer. Next slide. Moving forward, right now we are in the planning and development of a couple energy projects. We're looking to put solar on homes. We have 35 homes committed and funded and identified through the Focus on Energy program. So 35 homes will be getting solar on it this year. We're also identifying an additional 100 that we're going to put on a different utility and put solar on it. We're looking for funding for that project right now. We are looking at expanding our microgrid into a mini grid, and we have a feasibility study that should be first draft at least by the end of this month, and we should have a final draft by the end of the year. And then looking for utility upgrades to 3-phase. We need 3-phase lines to make sure we can put more renewable and solar projects out. And then always doing strategic energy planning. Always go back to the beginning parts of renewable energy and planning and development, and make sure that you're identifying goals over and over. As years go by and we learn more about renewable energy, goals will change. That's just the reality of it. Youth and young adult outreach and education, I'm going to continue to emphasize on that. The tribe has great programs, great youth programs that I can take advantage of, and I think that's a simple thing that we can do to make sure that the youth are being exposed. And then just for myself, continuing education. Us energy leaders in roles like this, we have to continue to stay on top of the game, on top of the technologies, and make sure that we're learning what's relevant today. So again, I'm emphasizing on the fellowship. I think the fellowship can play a big role in making sure a lot of tribal members are learning what's relevant. Next slide. Miigwech, thank you for your time. Again, my name is Daniel Wiggins Jr. and I'm from the Mishkizebe tribe, and look forward to many more discussions like this. And thank you for listening.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Chantel. And thank you, Brett, for engaging in the year-long fellowship. And if you have any questions, you can direct them at programs@tribalsolar.org. You can also reach out to any one of the Tribal Solar Accelerator Fund staff. We do have the application up for the 2022-23 Tribal Energy Innovator Fellowship. So please visit tribalsolar.org and look at the fellowship tab. We just encourage, all folks, whether you're have very little knowledge about the industry or you're an expert in your community, to look to our programs to participate and engage in. As you can tell, we had a diverse set of fellows this year that came together and learned from one another, shared with one another. And I think that's what it's about, is kind of those takeaways that each one of them got, was that they learned and shared about their communities. And so it made for very good discussions, cohort discussions, as well as just individual calls that we were able to engage with that made this fellowship something that was valuable to not just the Tribal Solar Accelerator Fund, but to each one of our fellows. So again, thank you for attending, and please give us a call or an email, and we're happy to answer any questions you have. I hope everyone has a great rest of your week. Thank you.